hour for you. We are going to spend about 20 minutes out here, then we're going to move inside the exhibition space where you're going to have a quick look around. In approximately half an hour's time, you're going to be sitting inside the melt house for the gold pouring demonstration. After the gold pouring demonstration, you can go back in the exhibition space and you can wander around at your own pace. So the first time I call you through into the melt house, please follow me in because I need to get that gold pouring underway at a certain time.
I don't think any of us can run.
So I'm going to start off by telling you where gold comes from. It doesn't come from this planet. We extracted it out of the ground on this planet. Before this planet existed, before the planets in our solar system existed, about 4.6 billion years ago, it's believed that two neutron stars collided. The collision from these two stars created so much debris, energy and radiation. That energy and radiation changed the atomic structure of certain elements, created gold and a lot of other heavy and precious metals. Yes, gold was born in the stars. As these pieces of metal and these debris were floating around in space, our sun started to form. The debris and the metal started to circle around our sun, collide and fuse together to form the different planets in our solar system. As these planets were in their formation stage, they were bombarded by more debris, by comets, meteorites and asteroids. Here on this planet, it stirred up that molten pot, brought a lot of those heavy and precious metals towards the surface where they solidified and from where we extract them now. But gold is an alien. Now, between Mars and Jupiter exists the asteroid belt. That asteroid belt, believed to be another planet that existed in our solar system that has disintegrated and left a trail of asteroids. One of the asteroids in that belt is known as 16 Psyche. Now, 16 Psyche is believed to be the core of the planet that disintegrated. It has an estimated worth of about $10,000 quadrillion. Now we know the real reason all those billionaires are going into space. Who wants to be a billionaire when you can be a quadrillionaire? Now, in October 2023, NASA launched a rocket out to 16 Psyche. That rocket is actually headed there as we speak. It's going to be a 16 Psyche in about August 2029 to have a closer look at this core, to give us a better understanding about our planet, our core, and what resources are out there. You know what the sad thing is? In August 2029, when you hear about this on the news, you're going to remember me. You're going to say, who's telling us the truth? Gold does come from the stars. We use the term gold because it comes from the Anglo-Saxon Germanic word for the colour yellow. That's correct. The word gold simply means yellow in a foreign language, but today we use it to refer to this coloured metal. The Latins, on the other hand, used to refer to that golden coloured sky. Sometimes you see a golden coloured sky at sunrise and sunset. They used to call that the aurum. When they saw this metal that was a similar colour to that golden coloured sky, they called this aurum as well. And the name stuck because the first two letters of aurum, AU. Bullion investment proof collectors. You can buy all these online, you can come in and buy them. You can pick up your little gold bullion bar, you can take it home and put it under your pillow. Or if you wanted, you can actually store them in a vault at the back. At times, we have in excess of $7 billion of gold in storage. $7 billion of gold in storage. Just let me add, folks, we have very, very good security, okay? Don't get the wrong idea. So that's what we do here today. We are a specialist precious metals mint. Now, the two guys in the statue, they found a lot of gold, but they didn't find anything really, really big in size. Before them, in a place called Malaga, Victoria, in 1869, a couple of friends working their pond on Bulldog Ridge, we come across this big quartz rock. They can see gold in it. They managed to take this home. They put on the fire, so that heat expands the rock and it's easy to chip off. For the next 10 hours, they chipped away, they chipped away, they chipped away. They removed the rock and exposed the nugget. They said, welcome stranger, welcome stranger. That is what they call the nugget. This is a replica of that gold nugget. This is a replica of the welcome stranger gold nugget, the nugget they found in that rock on that day in 1869. Very, very nervous, very, very excited. They had their friends come over for a few drinks. I'm pretty sure the real reason they had their friends come over is for a bit of security, because they asked their friends to stay the night and accompany them into town the next morning. Then the next morning they get up a bit worse for wear. They put it in a box, they put it on the wagon. Their friends sit around the box on the wagon, they go into town. They stop outside of the bank. Jason runs up to the bank manager. He said, sir, I have some gold on my wagon, how much are you paying? The bank manager said, I'm going to pay you £4 per ounce. And Jason said, you quote me 100 weight. The bank manager said, You're drunk. Get out of my bank. That's 112 pounds of gold. Nobody's got that. Get out. Stop wasting my time. He got kicked out of the bank. Jason runs down the wagon with his friends. They pick up the box. They come back. They drop it in front of the bank manager. The bank manager looks down and he shakes his head. He says, sorry, I can't weigh that on my scale. It's too big. Back on the wagon to the end of town, Archie Ball, the blacksmith, pulls out a hammer and chisel and chops it up into several pieces. They bring those pieces back. The bank manager weighed them individually for a combined weight just under 71.5 kilos. The reward of just over 9,534 pounds. In today's money, that is about $14 million. The Welcome Stranger gold nugget still holds the record as the biggest gold nugget ever found anywhere in the world. It was found in Malaga, Victoria in 1869. Anyone from Victoria here? You guys got the biggest nugget, but we've got a better story. In 1931, the Great Depression affected Perth greatly. There were a lot of people here protesting and rioting. The government came up with a plan how to disperse them. They wrote a free book, How to Go Prospecting. Already prospecting 650 kilometres in that direction in a place called Widgeon with Jim Larkham. He's had this new mining lease. He's only had that claim for about 1 week. His 16-year-old son, Jimmy, young Jimmy's job was to carry firewood into town. Way too hot and heavy to carry firewood into town. Young Jimmy quit. Dad comes home. Young Jimmy's got no job. Dad said, you can come out with me tomorrow prospecting. Jimmy said, I don't know how to. Dad said, you'll learn. The next day they jump on the wagon, they go out onto their claim. They jump out, they start digging around. The first day together, they find nothing. The second day they jump on the wagon, they go out onto their claim. The wagon goes over a pothole. Young Jimmy, he remembers that wagon went over that same pothole yesterday. Now, I don't know if young Jimmy was smart or lazy, but he thought, why dig other holes if there's a pothole back there? He walks back to the pothole, he starts looking at this pothole, and he yells out, Dad, nugget, nugget, nugget. Dad comes running across, sees young Jimmy struggling. Young Jimmy was struggling to pull out this 35.5 kilo gold nugget. Dad gives him a hand, they pull it out of the ground, and Dad wanted to call this little Jimmy. Little Jimmy. Looks like a baby. You know, when you're 16 years old, you don't want to be called a baby. So they didn't call it little Jimmy. What they called it instead, they called it the Golden Eagle. Now, if the sun was out and in its cast a shadow, it does look like an eagle flying. The Golden Eagle was purchased by the Western Australian government for just over £5,400. Young Jimmy and his dad James were given a job by the government. They travelled around Australia with him. They travelled around the eastern states, they travelled around Western Australia. Unfortunately, during the Depression, the Western Australian government started to run low on money. The Golden Eagle was brought back here, was taken in the melt house, which is the exact same room you're going to be sitting in about 10 minutes' time, where it was chopped up and melted down. Young Jim and his dad James, well, their contract was over and they were out of work. But they had a bit of money from the sale and they invested very wisely. Oops, sorry, wisely is the wrong word. They invested very Australian. They bought themselves a pub. They bought themselves a pub and they called that pub the Golden Eagle Hotel. That Golden Eagle Hotel was operating in Boulder, Kalgoorlie all the way up until 2010. In 2010, a small earthquake damaged the pub. A couple of years later, an arson attack burnt it down. The pub no longer exists. The Golden Eagle, Western Australia's biggest nugget, melted down, no longer exists. And the Welcome Stranger, Australia and the world's biggest gold nugget, also melted down, no longer exists. And you folks come here to see some gold. I'm showing you stuff that doesn't exist. But what we're going to do now, we're going to move inside the exhibition space and you're going to see some of the gold that does exist. We're going to start off by standing around the big coin. The big coin, not the Bitcoin. Those other things are invisible. Please make sure you have your tickets in. Please make your way and please stand around that big coin. Thank you very much. Perspex we have to. Perspex is 17 times tougher than glass. It has to be tough because what it's holding up is not a piece of plastic. This is the world record holder. This is the biggest gold coin in the world. It was made for the Queen's visit to Perth in 2011. It was released in 2012. Still holds the record as being the biggest gold coin in the world. As it turns around, you'll notice that on the side of the kangaroo has 4 nines. The 4 nines signify that this gold coin has a minimum gold content of 99.99%.
Wow.
99.99%. It is real gold, it's solid gold, it's 24 karat gold. As it turns around the other side, it has the Queen's profile. Under the Queen's profile, there is a $1 million face value. This coin is not circulating currency, however, it is officially legal tender. Under the Australian Coins Act, it has been given an official legal tender value of $1 million. If you own this coin and you roll it down to the bank manager must accept it. You get your $1 million. And that'd be a very stupid thing to do. Because this is the 1 ton gold kangaroo coin. To be precise, it weighs 1,012 kilos. And at today's gold price, its gold value is about $171 million. That's right, you have $171 million of gold sitting there a couple of metres in front of you, and too bad the security feature is in its weight. Nobody's picking this up and walking out. Just to make sure it's very, very safe, every afternoon we stop it, we lower it down into this vault, and we close up these vault doors. Do you know why we do that? It's because we don't want George Clooney and the Ocean's 11 guys coming here to see that. They can make a good movie. They can start off by using this. This is the lifting arm we use. In the melt house, we are using an induction furnace. While it's on, for the 10 minutes it's on, it does put an electromagnetic field out, which covers around 1.5 to 2 metres. It could affect those people with pacemakers. If you have a pacemaker and you feel uncomfortable, just sit a bit higher up or to the side. Folks, please follow me in. As you can see, I've got some of my safety gear on. For your safety, please listen to the following instructions. If there is a need for an evacuation, please exit through this door here, turn left and follow the corridor out the front. If for some reason you can't get out that door, please use the door on the other side and follow the corridor out the back. If you're going through that door, you're going through the coining department. Try not to pick up any souvenirs on the way. There's going to be security at the other end. You are allowed to take photos and videos in here. You must have the flashes and the lights on your devices set to off in both camera and video mode. Please ensure they're not on automatic, because I'll come back on, and if they blind me and I miss pour that gold, yeah, people are going to be upset. Now, also please do not hold your device above your head so the person behind you can't see past it. The seats you are sitting on, those seats and the seats in front of you, the backrests are not fixed in place, they do fold forward. Please do not kick up against the person's seat in front of you, and later on do not lean on the backrest, because if they collapse forward and you fall. The melt house is part of the refining department of this mint. This is where all those unrefined precious metals come into to be refined, or used to come into here. When they initially built this mint and it was completed in 1899. It was actually built outside of the Perth city centre back in the day, but as our city has grown, we have become part of the Perth city. By 1990, the refining department and the melt house in this building had become way, way too small for our requirements, so we moved it off-site to a purpose-built facility in a strategic location. It's next to Perth Airport. Why is that strategic location? It's because we no longer only refine most of Western Australia's gold, we refine most of Australia's gold and precious metals, as well as Oceania's, those neighbouring countries and islands. Most of that today, unrefined precious metal, arrives to us on planes. Nice and convenient next to the airport. If the owners only want us to do the refining process and they want it back so they can store and they can sell, we'll ship most of them back out on aeroplanes. What they don't want, we refine, we bring back here, and here on site is where we mint. We have been minting in this location for over 126 years. We are one of the oldest, if not the oldest, operating mint still working out of the one building anywhere in the world. Back in the day, we had 15 gas-fired furnaces across this back wall. And from 1899 until 1902, we could mint between 1 to 2 million gold sovereign coins every year. But the British wanted more. So in the adjoining rooms, we added another 17 furnaces. From 1903 until 1931, we could produce between 4 to 5 million gold sovereign coins, for a total in those 32 years of making the gold sovereign coins, over 106 million gold sovereign coins were minted here, and over 735,000 half sovereign coins. Today, those 15 furnaces and the 17 from the other rooms have been removed, and today we have one induction furnace. On top is a small crucible, and I need about $500,000 of gold, or maybe a bit more, to put in that crucible to melt it down. Can anybody lend me some? No, I didn't think so. So I'm just going to go into this safe and I'm going to get some gold out. This is a real gold bar. It is 150 troy ounces, which is approximately 4.5 kilos. It has a minimum gold content of 99.99%. And I will tell you how much it's worth a bit later on. What I'm going to do now, folks, I'm going to place it into the crucible and lower it down into the furnace. That furnace is going to come on. It's going to make its way up to around 1,250 degrees. 1,250 degrees. Your home oven is about 220 degrees maximum. Gold will not melt in your home oven. Gold's melting point is just below 1,250 degrees. It's 1,064. And that's going to take about 10 to 15 minutes to go from a solid state into a molten liquid state. Then I'm going to pour it into this mold. Folks, while that's melting away, I'm just going to give you a bit of background about the refining process. Over 100 years ago, the gold used to arrive to us here at the Mint on horse and wagon. When they put the train line in, it came here on the train. At the station next to the mine site, the train pulled up. They had a special carriage on that train known as the bullion van. That bullion van not only had a vault inside, it also had a bed and a toilet in there, because not only was the gold locked in, so was the officer accompanying the gold. He was locked in there. He couldn't get out until the train arrived here in Perth. A police escort went down to the station. They picked up the gold and the officer, they brought it back here for us to refine. Now, when that gold comes to us, it has a lot of impurities in it. It comes in the form of a doré bar. So at the mine site, they removed a lot of the ore and a lot of the rock. They melted it down and turned it into a doré bar. A doré bar has a gold content between 50 to 90%. The main impurities in there are silver, copper, lead, zinc, a few other base metals, and maybe some precious metals. We need to remove all those and purify the gold. How that was done was using the Miller process. Involved taking a crucible, placing the doré bar into that crucible, placing that into a furnace. We close the lid on that gas-fired furnace. We bring up the temperature to around 1,200 degrees. Within that furnace, in about 45 minutes to an hour, that doré bar has turned into a molten liquid state. But there's other metals in there, not only the gold. So what they did then is they injected a stream of chlorine gas into that molten liquid. That will bubble away, bring the lighter metals towards the top, where they're wiped off as a slag. What we have gold at 99.5% purity. 99.5% purity using the Miller process, that chlorine gas. Not good enough. We want gold at least 99.99% purity. Then they took that doré bar, they attached it to a positive current. On the other side of a tub that contained hydrochloric acid and gold chloride, they had a cathode with a negative current. Through electrolysis, as they submerge those two into a solution, the gold will start to break up. The gold migrates across to the other side and attaches itself to the cathode through electrolysis. Those other impurities have either dissolved in the acid or fallen down to the bottom. The silver that's fallen down the bottom, that is taken and used as silver, but what we have gold coming out at 99.99 to 99.999% purity. Yeah, 9999. So that is electrolysis, and that is known as the Wall-Will process. We still use electrolysis. We no longer use the Miller process here at our refinery. Today, instead of using the Miller process, we use what is known as acidless separation. The Miller process requires a lot of harsh chemicals, that chlorine gas. So to get rid of that, we use acidless separation. It involves a vacuum chamber. In that vacuum chamber, we place a crucible, we place the gold, we seal that chamber. We bring down the pressure inside into a negative pressure, and we start to heat up the precious metals. As they heat up, those more volatile metals that heat up at a lower temperature, they start to rise in that chamber because of the negative pressure. They go into a condenser where they cool down. The middle volatility metals like silver, they start to heat up at a bit higher temperature. They go up into another chamber where they cool down, and what you're left with are the heavier, less volatile metals like gold. We pour that out as 99.7% purity. The Miller process is 99.5% purity. So it's about the same, but it requires a lot less chemicals and it's more environmentally friendly and safer to use acidless separation. Then we take that gold, we use electrolysis to bring it up to 99.999% purity. So that is how gold's refined these days, through acidless separation and electrolysis. Now, once we have the gold bar, we can't sell that gold bar as a bullion product unless we stamp it. We must put several stamps on there. You know, gold's fairly soft. In its fairly pure form, gold is actually as hard as the human fingernail. Next time you cut off a piece of nail, you bend it. If that was a gold, it'd bend exactly the same. That's why a lot of jewellery has other metals introduced in it. Gold is so soft, you can take a 1 ounce gold coin, it's about the size of an Australian 20-cent piece. If you have enough time and patience, you can make a sheet that covers 9 square metres. It's going to be super, super thin piece of gold sheet. It's actually going to be transparent, you're going to be able to see through it. And it does have a lot of applications. If you ever watch documentaries of space, you'll notice that the astronauts' visors are gold because they have that very, very thin gold film on it. Gold has great UV and thermal blocking properties. So it's great to block out the heat as well as the glare in space. They found that if they put gold into reading glasses, nano pieces of gold in reading glasses, that the glasses don't fog up. I can't wait until they start putting in the car windscreens. That'd be great, yeah. You know, about 5 years ago, who did a rats test? You know the rats test? You know those little cassettes you put it in? They have nanoparticles of gold in them. Gold reflects the red spectrum, and that's why you get that red line, because those. So gold has a lot of applications. Now, when we stamp the gold bar, because it's quite soft, the first thing we're going to stamp it with is the mint mark, the maker's mark. Did you notice on the big $1 million kangaroo coin under the kangaroo, there's actually a letter P? P for the Perth Mint. The Raw Mint had branches around the world. They wanted to know who was making what and the qualities. We were assigned with the letter P. The Royal Sydney Mint had an S, Melbourne an M, Canada a C, India an I, and South Africa an SA. We still use our letter P on the coins. But on our bullion bars, you see our modern mint mark. That is our swan logo. It's the same one on your wrist tickers. So you'll see that on most of our bars instead of the letter P. And around this one, we're going to put the origins, the Perth in Australia, then we're going to stamp it with the year. Well, I'm not going to stamp this one because I have to melt it down in about an hour's time again. But if we were going to sell it as bullion, we need to stamp it. with the year as well that it was made. Then the next thing we have to put on there is a serial number. It's valuable. Nearly every single valuable item you own has a serial number. Your TV, your car, your computer, your telephone, your fridge, your washing machine. The serial numbers there are so they can be traced and tracked. Firstly, they're tracked when they leave the factory to the warehouse, the retailer, to your place. But they trace them as well if they ever go missing. But how do you trace gold? Imagine someone took that gold bar with that serial number, they wiped off that serial number or they melted it down. Gold is never 100% pure. There's always impurities in there, minute different ratios of different metals, and we call that gold DNA. That DNA information goes onto a database next to the serial number. If that gold ever goes missing, we can compare it, see if it's the same gold. I'll tell you a true story. Berlin, Germany, 2017, they had the 100 kilo Canadian gold coin on display, not 1,000 kilo, 100 kilo. People broke in the museum, they broke the cabinet, they took that coin out, they put it onto a skateboard, they wheeled it out to the back door, put it onto a wheelbarrow, they disappeared. The police came to the crime scene, they looked everywhere. They could not find the coin, but they found a piece of hair on some climbing equipment. They found the suspect. They went to the suspect's house, they looked everywhere. They could not find the coin there either. But what they found in the carpet, deep inside the piles of the carpet, were these gold shavings that the vacuum cleaner couldn't pick up. They were stuck in there. They took these little shavings, thinking they cut up this coin, they compared it to the database. It was the exact same gold. They had the exact same impurities in the exact same ratios. They were arrested in jail. The moral of the story, folks, don't steal gold. It can be traced. So now we've got a serial number. The next thing we need to put on there is the weight. The standard weight measurement for precious metals is not kilos, it's not ounces, it's not pounds, it is the troy ounce. It's named after the city of Troyes in France. Once upon a time, Troyes was part of the Roman Empire. The Romans used to travel around their empire with a bronze bar that was cut up into 12 pieces. One of these pieces was known as a unica. They used one of these or multiple of these to weigh things. A unica weighed just over 31 grams. In the Middle Ages, the Troyes kept on using those unicas, became known as the during the Middle Ages, it became known as the standard for precious metal, the troy ounce, just over 31 grams. So when they're quoting the gold prices on the media and the news and they say $5,200 an ounce, they mean a troy ounce. If you went to a store and they sold you a normal ounce worth, which is over just 28 grams, you just got ripped off by about 10%. This is 150 troy ounces. And folks, that's good for me to pour. Are you ready? Yes. Look at that. I'm just about to risk my life and all I get is a yeah.
Go for it.
Thank you very much. Okay, man. That's all I needed. Folks, I'm just putting on these gloves, like my apron. They have a aluminium foil on the outside. That's just to reflect the heat. On the underside, there's wool. Wool does not combust in the normal atmosphere. Wool has a lot of nitrogen and moisture in it. There is not enough oxygen in the normal atmosphere for the wool to catch on fire. And between the wool and the aluminium foil, there is a layer of synthetic material known as Kevlar. Kevlar is not only heat resistant, but Kevlar is also bulletproof. Let's not try that second one today. Folks, I'm going to turn off the lights. I'm going to come across here, pick up these tongs, turn it, hit the button on that panel. That is going to raise that crucible. I'm going to clamp it with the tongs, come across here and pour it into the mould. Please enjoy. Folks, what I just poured into that mould was real liquid gold. Although gold is no longer liquid, within 10 to 15 seconds of that going into the mould, it has solidified. Although solid, it's still very, very hot. It is way, way too hot for me to pick up, but it is a red hot gold bar. Ma'am, can you turn off your flash? It is way, way too hot for pick up. If I try to pick this up, the gloves would catch on fire. They don't pay me enough money to pick that up. So I'm going to flip it out of this tray, move it across to the tub of water to accelerate the cooling process. This is real gold. This and all gold is older than our planet. And thousands of kilometres beneath us, where all the molten metals are, this is what colour the gold is. It's red, red hot. When it gets pushed up to the surface, it cools down. And when it cools down and we pull it out of the ground, it's no longer red hot, it is gold. 4.6 billion years old. Formed in the stars before this planet existed. It's come onto this planet, we extract it out of the ground. We melt, we mould and we cool this between 4 to 7 times a day. Gold does not lose any of its integrity. 4.6 billion years old, it doesn't get harder or softer, does not corrode, rust or tarnish, doesn't change colour, does a fantastic job. Still a bit hot there, you can see the steam. I'm just doing the steam thing because Mum said it's good for my complexion. Not working, is it? I'm only 21. Still a bit hot, so I'm going to leave it in there for another minute or two. Then I can pick it up without the need for gloves, I hope. Not only does the gold do a fantastic job, but so do these crucibles. Although they look like metal, they're not. They're clay. The reason they look like metal is because they have a graphite coating on the outside. You can see that peeling away just there where I've been. Graphite is an excellent conductor. Carbon turns into graphite, it turns into diamonds. Graphite has great thermal transference. It conducts the heat nice and evenly throughout the crucible. Graphite withstands very, very high temperatures and also is a pretty good lubricator as well. Most locksmiths will use graphite in your keyholes because they don't want to track dirt and grime into the keyholes. We don't want to track the dirt and grime into the gold. These cost $150 new, the smaller ones cost $50 new. They withstand temperatures in excess of 1,600 degrees Celsius. Unfortunately, they do start to break down. After a few months, they look like this. No longer worth $150. Worth about $1,000 now. As they break down, that molten gold starts to seep into the walls of the crucible. Now, we don't give these away. We don't throw them away. We sell them for about $2,000 each, or used to sell them for $2,000 each, but most of them end up at the refinery because these make a very expensive champagne bucket. But at the refinery, they're crushed and that gold's extracted. Because through this process, we lose just under 1 gram of gold every day. So we bring that gold back and we top up the gold bar. What do you reckon, folks? You think it's cool enough to touch? It's my hand. Who said, yeah? You're kidding, aren't you? No, it's all good. It's all good. Cool enough to touch, folks. I'm going to get a quick dry on this very, very expensive towel. Very expensive because as I dry it like this, little bits of gold go in the towel. Whoever said yes, no, you can't have the towel. The towel and my gloves, when we finish them, we don't throw them away, put them in that bin out there. When that's full, we send that to the refinery. They extract the little bits of gold out of the towel. This is not KFC, guys. Now, this is real gold, folks. This is 150 troy ounces, 4.5 kilos of 99.99% gold. It is worth over $750,000. You can buy a house in Perth, or maybe put a deposit on a house in Sydney. This is gold. Now, I can't let you touch this gold bar because I'm not a very fast runner. That's why he's there. Super security guy, he's very, very fast. Now, you can't touch this gold bar, folks, but see that doorway directly opposite? That is the entry to the historic vault. You're allowed to walk in that vault. Inside on the right-hand side, there is a doorway. There's a glass panel, has a hole in it. Put your hand through there, try to pick up that gold bar. I apologise. It's not 150 troy ounces, 4.5 kilos. It is not worth $750,000. It's 400 troy ounces. It's 12.4 kilos. It is worth about $2 million. Pick up, not take. We're watching. Now you'll notice it's pretty heavy for its weight when you go to pick it up because gold's extremely dense. Gold is so dense that it weighs nearly 2.5 times that of steel. If this was steel, it'd be 2.5 times the size at 4.5 kilos. 1 litre of water weighs 1 kilo. 1 litre of gold weighs 19.3 kilos. Now you know I'm sweating, huh? It's heavy and hot work. You can imagine how hot it was when we had those 15 furnaces. At the back of the room it was nearly 60 degrees. The cheeky bugger across the road, Francis, he must have known about working in a mint because in 1896, while they were building a mint here, Francis was building a house. When he heard it was going to be a mint, he turned his house into a pub. You know where most of his work, customers come from. Most of his customers came out of this room. I'm still looking for the tunnel. Now, folks, once you pick up that gold bar, when you came in, you should have been issued with a token. You get one of those goldy coloured tokens. Only gold coloured, not real gold. Yeah, that's it. Just outside this door, folks, 10 metres to the left, there's a big green coin press. On the top right, there's a coin slot. You put that old token in the slot. You don't get the old one back. Look in the middle, you'll see a brand new one being pushed forward. That's going to be stamped. You get to keep that new one as a souvenir after it's stamped. Just outside this door, folks, and I hope you all went to the buffet, because just outside this door, 5 metres to the left, there's a scale. Get up on the scale, wait until the numbers count down. As the numbers are counting down, if you look to the right, you'll see this button light up red. You press that red button when it lights up. That's going to give you a sticker with your price tag, how much you're worth in gold. Ladies, please do not bring your husband in and try to trade him in, because currently our storeroom is full of husbands we're trying to get rid of. Thank you very, very much, folks. Please enjoy the exhibition. It's about the 80s. Yes, sir.
Yeah, do you believe there's gold still in Fort Knox and why they haven't done the audit they promised?
Is there gold in Fort Knox?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we stopped using the gold standard because, you know, a lot of the gold standard was pegged, the currency was pegged how much gold you had. Now every country's in debt. Why would you have gold in Fort Knox if, you know, if you're in debt? Sorry? Oh yeah, we just put them on display because a few months ago we changed from a gas to a induction furnace, and we kept some of the old pots instead of sending them across. We can send them.
Don't even think about it.
There you go.